War of Harmony 4 is a My Little Pony fan game that feels like it's based on some sort of epic fanfic that exists somewhere out there in the vastness of the internet. On the downside, this series is starting with the fourth game in its series, which means when games 1 through 3 come out, they will be prequels that help explain all the missing backstory that is needed to give full context to this game. And make no mistake, this story is lacking context in a lot of places. Yes, a lot of important background information is delivered, but there's still enough missing to make the game suffer at times. It also leaves a lot of the big questions about what caused the war completely unexplored, meaning the players depend on the rest of the series coming out in order to fully grasp the story. And that is problematic in my opinion, since this game is still being tweaked by the developer, so I'm not sure if the rest of the games will ever come out. With that being said, I should probably move on to discussing what is here. Story-wise, the War of Harmony 4 appears to take place sometime after the aforementioned war is over, so the game is meant to deal more with the aftermath of the conflict rather than the war itself. And that aftermath is extremely grim and dark, and I'd be lying if I said this game doesn't capture some of the darker elements of conflict, or leave the player feeling a bit empty, since even if you beat the game, all that awaits you is a rather hollow victory in many respects. On the other hand, the game does make things interesting by including a karma system, albeit how much this changes up the story is unclear to me, since I've only played through the game once and stuck entirely to following the path of virtue whenever possible. And being the kind of person I am, I will never play through the game a second time in order to explore what occurs if you pursue other decision paths that hinge on the darker aspects of character exploration. In terms of gameplay, the game features a few simple puzzles that can easily be worked through. And a few of those puzzles are block-pushing puzzles, so they end up feeling more like I'm being tested on my gaming 101 abilities than actually being challenged to consider my options and work my way through them. And this issue also applies to combat as well. Even on hard mode, the game tends to be rather lacking in terms of difficulty. I never really felt like I was being pushed all that hard if I felt like I was being pushed at all. Indeed, the game provides the player with a rather great grinding spot early on in the game, so even if you felt like you were being challenged, you can easily grind out experience and MP recovery items outside of Luna's castle. Though considering how much emphasis the game seems to place on narrative and atmosphere, I can easily chalk the lack of challenging combat and puzzles up to the game wanting to tell an interesting and compelling story based around the My Little Pony universe, and it largely succeeds at this task for the most part. Visually speaking, this game is rather impressive for an RPG Maker project, since the game clearly uses custom field and area designs. Apparently the developer decided to not utilize tilesets, but instead is using detailed overlays and maps for this project. And this work definitely makes for a more visually stimulating game that distinguishes itself from most of the crowd. And this is also true for the enemies and character models that really look like they could fit in with the show for the most part. About the only real complaint I can throw at the game is a graphical glitch that occurs while you're walking up and down the stairs in Luna's palace. Sound-wise, the game makes excellent use of music to build atmosphere, even if a few of the tracks sound a bit on the generic side of things when it comes to horror in my opinion. While War of Harmony 4 is probably one of the best fan games I've ever played, I still question the decision to release the series out of numerical order. Yes, the developer has stated this was intentional and that the players meant to play this game first, but at the same time it still feels like an odd decision that may push people away who are unaware of the intended order for playing these games. And I'm still not certain that the first 3 games in the series will ever see a release, considering how time-consuming trying to perfect just one game can be. And that means a lot of the context issues surrounding this game may never actually be addressed. With that being said, this game is worth checking out if you're a fan of games that are a bit on the grim and dark side of things, or a fan of My Little Pony.